Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
After listening to today's news, you'll know. First, 95% of businesses see zero generative AI returns, sparking fears of a $1 trillion data center investment bubble. We'll examine how this massive infrastructure build-out ahead of demand may impact innovation cycles and future product roadmaps. Second, the FCC's Delete initiative weaponizes broadband funding to dismantle state-level net neutrality laws. We'll explore how this battle creates a fragmented internet and could transform ISP business practices across the US. Third, Huawei and Xiaomi disrupt China's EV market as incumbents like BYD and Tesla see sales plummet amid a brutal price war. We'll analyze why this software-first approach is a turning point and how it could affect competitive dynamics in the European auto market. Fourth, ransomware attacks surge 84%, but new data shows paying the ransom nearly doubles recovery costs for victim enterprises. Today, we'll take a closer look at this counterintuitive finding and its implications for enterprise, cybersecurity, and risk management strategies. Fifth, Disney pays a $10 million fine for allegedly violating child privacy laws by mislabeling YouTube videos to collect data. So we'll discuss why this case matters and what it means for platform liability and the economics of online children's content. President Donald Trump went on the record saying he'd love to fire Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. Then he actually attempted to fire another Fed governor, Lisa Cook, a move the Supreme Court is now blocking while she challenges the firing. This isn't just political theatre. It's a direct challenge to a core principle of our economy. The Federal Reserve's independence is what allows it to make tough decisions to control inflation and stabilise the economy without political pressure. During the 1990s tech boom, the Fed's independent actions were crucial in managing growth. Eroding that independence now, especially to artificially fuel an AI market, could lead to massive long-term instability. This isn't the only front in the president's war on established institutions. The fate of his entire trade policy, built on steep tariffs, also hangs in the balance, waiting for a separate Supreme Court decision on whether the duties are even legal. This trade policy also creates a huge paradox for the AI race. We're seeing the US wanting to dominate AI, while at the same time, these tariffs disrupt the global supply chains that companies like NVIDIA absolutely depend on. We're talking about duties on tech imports from key hubs in Asia. In response, companies like NVIDIA are now scrambling to diversify, partnering with manufacturers in places like Malaysia and Vietnam to reduce their risk. It's a high-stakes choice between AI leadership and supply chain nationalism. As we've tracked before, the infrastructure gap is stark. The US holds roughly 53% of global hyperscale capacity, while all of Europe sits near 16%. Tariffs risk deepening that gap even as companies fan out to Southeast Asia. While Washington wages war, a starkly different battle is splitting the country in two. It's called the K-shaped economy, where the best-off consumers are splashing out on premium airline seats, while lower earners buckle under high costs, forcing fast food chains to push value meals. And the AI boom is pouring gasoline on this fire by creating a new economic divide. The International Monetary Fund warns that AI could impact nearly 40% of all jobs globally, hitting advanced economies the hardest. We're seeing a split between those who can afford premium productivity-boosting AI tools and a majority who are either left with basic versions or face job displacement. This is the K-shape in action. This economic divide is creating what many call a year of bad vibes, with consumer sentiment hitting some of the lowest levels on record. But that's not the whole picture. In Silicon Valley, the great AI race exploded. Titans like NVIDIA and OpenAI struck multi-billion-dollar deals, even with each other, to meet insatiable demand. We've also highlighted how the picks and shovels trade paid off optics supplier. Lumentum soared 372%, and investors betting beyond the headline names saw some positions more than triple. Behind the boom, though, skeptics warn of an AI bubble that could pop, a catastrophic event for an economy now increasingly reliant on AI spending. Looking at how this surge is being financed, the latest development is just how massive the pipeline has become. Previously, we walked through how data center debt issuance nearly doubled to about $182 billion, and how the four biggest tech companies were projecting roughly $380 billion of infrastructure spend this year alone. We also noted how hyperscalers are shifting risk by tapping debt and private equity, giving rise to a new internet landlord class that snapped up 80% to 90% of data center deals since 2022. So is this really a bubble like the dot-com bust of 2000? Well, the dynamics are different. Unlike the dot-com era, which was fueled by unprofitable startups, today's AI boom is being driven by established, profitable giants. But the warning signs are there. The spending is astronomical, with projections of up to $1 trillion for data center infrastructure by 2030. The problem? This massive build-out might be happening faster than actual demand. Some reports suggest that a shocking 95% of businesses are seeing zero return on their generative AI investments. If that infrastructure sits underutilized, the financial fallout could be immense. We've seen how fragile this can get. When a single $10 billion data center deal involving Oracle was rumored to be cancelled, Oracle fell 5%, dragging the Nasdaq to its worst day in nearly a month. Even so, total deal-making still hit a record, $61 billion, underscoring a market that's racing ahead even as nerves build. Even tech entrepreneur Elon Musk weighed in on the year's political drama, blasting Trump with the claim, "Without me, Trump would have lost." Amid all this chaos, one statistic stands out. While the stock market defied gravity to hit all-time highs, the price of silver surged a staggering 166.5%. This was the defining reality of the year, a market hitting record highs fueled by an AI gold rush, set against a backdrop of deep economic anxiety and a historic power struggle between the White House and the nation's highest courts. Speaking of power struggles in Washington, the battle over the internet's future is getting just as intense. The FCC isn't just letting net neutrality die, it's actively erasing it from the books. And for anyone who needs a quick refresher, net neutrality is the principle that internet service providers must treat all data on the internet the same. They can't block, slow down, or charge more for specific websites or online content. It's what keeps the internet an open playing field. The agency has launched a delete initiative to wipe out regulations without a chance for public comment. This comes just months after a 2024 comeback for net neutrality rules was struck down by a court. But instead of fighting that ruling, the Trump administration's FCC is going on the offensive. The official line from internet service providers, or ISPs, is that these rules are an unnecessary and anti-consumer regulatory distraction. But without net neutrality, ISPs could introduce a two-tiered internet. The technology that makes this possible is called 5G network slicing. Think of it like creating special VIP lanes on the internet highway. An ISP could create a slice for gaming with super low latency or a slice for 4K streaming and then charge you extra for access to those premium lanes. We've seen hints of this in countries without strong net neutrality, where mobile carriers have offered plans that give you unlimited access to certain apps, but not others, effectively picking winners and losers. But policy experts have a different take. Matt Wood from the nonprofit Free Press says ISPs often tell their investors they're already complying with these rules anyway. His assessment, a lot of their complaints about the supposed burdens from these rules are really just ideological in nature, and he's pointing to a very real and powerful movement. This isn't just about one rule. It's part of a broader philosophy of deregulation. Influential think tanks like the Competitive Enterprise Institute and the Mercatus Centre have been advocating for years for less government oversight in critical industries, arguing it sparks innovation. They are well funded and have a clear agenda to roll back regulations across the board. And the anti-regulatory agenda now extends beyond net neutrality, recently reversing cybersecurity rules and rolling back requirements for ISPs to provide clear nutrition labels for their broadband pricing. One expert at the Electronic Frontier Foundation put it plainly, ISPs just want to do whatever they want to do with no limits and nobody telling them how to do it. With federal regulations dissolving, states like California, Washington, and Maine have stepped up, creating their own consumer protection laws. This creates what experts call a patchwork internet. It's very similar to what we've seen with data privacy, where California's strict laws forced companies to change their practices nationwide. For a national ISP, navigating a dozen different state-level net neutrality rules is a compliance nightmare, and some worry this fragmentation could actually lead to confusion and uneven protections for consumers depending on where they live. But now, those state laws are the next target. The administration is now pressuring states to drop their net neutrality rules. The leverage, eligibility for the massive bipartisan broadband equity, access and deployment program known as BEAD, The administration calls state-level net neutrality a form of rate regulation, a practice prohibited by the BED program. This is the core of the strategy, and it's a bold reimagining of what rate regulation even means. Traditionally, it meant a government agency telling a company the exact price it can charge. But the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, or NTIA, is now expanding that definition to include net neutrality rules. Their argument is that because net neutrality prevents ISPs from charging extra for fast lanes, it's a form of controlling their rates. This is a highly controversial legal interpretation that critics say is on very shaky ground, but it's the tool they're using to force states to back down. This has turned a popular program designed to expand internet access into a new battleground. As one expert asks, why are we making broadband deployment into yet another front in these culture wars? The debate now threatens to delay the rollout of crucial internet infrastructure to underserved communities, holding broadband expansion hostage in a fight over regulation. While the US debates the rules of the digital superhighway, a very different kind of road race is unfolding in China, and the established giants are hitting a wall. Now, get this. In the world's biggest electric car market, market leader BYD just saw its monthly sales plummet by a staggering 26.5%, and even Tesla reported a 7.4% drop. We've seen Tesla's slide in Europe as Chinese brands surge there. Now that pressure is clearly spilling back into China's home turf. So who's filling the void? It's a bombshell for the auto industry. Newcomers, including vehicles powered by Huawei software and models from phone maker Xiaomi, are exploding onto the scene with sales growth of more than 90%. That same software-first playbook that helped Chinese automakers push into Europe is exactly what's propelling these newcomers at home. This isn't just about new car brands. It's a fundamental shift in what a car even is. You see, tech companies like Huawei and Xiaomi are treating cars like giant smartphones on wheels. Their advantage isn't just manufacturing, it's software. They're creating vehicles that are deeply integrated with your digital life, with advanced driver assistance and seamless connectivity that traditional automakers are struggling to match. For example, Huawei's Ito brand actually outsold established competitors like Li Auto in February, and Xiaomi's new SU7 sedan integrates with Apple devices right out of the box. This is forcing everyone, including BYD, to completely rethink their strategy. This isn't just a market shift, it's an all-out price war that one analyst predicts will last for years. The discounts are jaw-dropping. One online platform shows the Mercedes-Benz EQS electric vehicle with a price cut of 432,000 yuan, which is over 61,000 US dollars. And as we noted before, in Europe, this kind of aggressive pricing at home is the springboard for their global charge. The problem is this crazy price war is creating what some are calling a resale value time bomb. Think about it. If you bought an EV last year and now the brand new model is being sold with a 30% discount, the value of your used car has just collapsed. We're seeing some 2-year-old models lose over half their original value. This erodes consumer confidence and creates a massive headache for leasing companies. The pressure is so intense that the top 10 manufacturers now control 95% of the market, squeezing everyone else out in what's being called a survival test. That consolidation we flagged isn't hypothetical anymore, it's here. And this survival test has a brutal endgame. The Chinese government has made it clear it plans to phase out non-competitive EV companies to focus resources on the major players. We're not talking about a small shakeout. Between 2018 and 2025, roughly 400 Chinese EV companies went out of business. Analysts predict that of the 100 or so brands left, fewer than 50 will survive by 2030. However, if you zoom out, you'll see this battle isn't staying in China. With a saturated home market, these companies are now pushing aggressively overseas for survival and profit. In the first half of the year, automaker Geely saw its EV exports quadruple. BYD is exporting on an even more massive scale, shipping over 131,000 cars overseas in November alone and building a new factory in Hungary. This is the next phase of that same playbook we saw in Europe. Building a factory in Hungary is actually a brilliant geopolitical move. It allows companies like BYD to get inside the European Union's trade walls, avoiding potentially massive import duties of up to 36% that the EU has levied on Chinese-made EVs. It's a strategy to bypass tariffs, build regional supply chains, and compete directly on European soil. This is especially valuable as Europe shifts its own rules, allowing some internal combustion beyond 2035 and watching hybrids surge in sales. Meanwhile, foreign automakers are being forced to make a choice, flee or fight. German giant Volkswagen is digging in, building its largest research and development center outside of Germany and China, and partnering with local tech firms like XPeng to build cars faster. But this is a huge gamble for a legacy automaker like Volkswagen, primarily due to the risk of technology transfer. By partnering so closely with Chinese tech firms like XPeng, investing $700 million for just a 5% stake, they hope to cut development time by over 30%. The question everyone is asking is, are they also accidentally creating their own future global competitors by giving them access to their core technology? It's a high-stakes bet on survival. The entire global auto landscape is being redrawn in real time. As one industry expert put it, in China's EV market, you could be on top 1 month, and by the next quarter, you're playing catch-up and wondering what happened. From the high-stakes survival test in the auto industry, we turn to a different kind of existential threat facing businesses everywhere. Cybercrime. When a cyber criminal takes your company hostage, you have just minutes to act. But one firm is getting back to victims in an average of just 6 minutes. This is not a simple IT call. For one major retail client hit by the scattered spider gang, a 30-minute Teams meeting instantly became a 24-hour call with a rotating cast of experts. Their mission, to stop the bleeding before the criminals detonate malware across the entire system. The scale of this problem is staggering. According to the NCC Group, ransomware incidents skyrocketed by 84% in just 1 year. We're talking about a massive industrialized criminal ecosystem. The firm is SRM, and its specialists are in the war room when ransoms are negotiated. But what's really surprising is the first question they posed to a hacked company's board. Why should we pay these criminals? For years, paying the ransom felt like the only option, but the game is changing. In fact, paying often makes things worse. Research from the cybersecurity firm Sophos found that the average total cost of recovery for companies that times paid times the ransom was nearly double the cost for those that used backups to recover. We're talking an average of almost $2 million. And the data is stark. Only a tiny fraction, just 8% of organizations that paid, actually got all of their data back. So you pay a fortune and you still don't get what you were promised. Their stated ambition is to guide clients toward no payment decisions whenever and wherever possible. To do this, they've built an unbelievable intelligence file on the criminals themselves. So who are these specialists building these files? Interestingly enough, many of them are former government intelligence operatives. Think about people who've spent their careers at agencies like the NSA or GCHQ and are now bringing that state-level tradecraft into the private sector. It's like having spies for hire, but their mission is to hunt cyber criminals, not state secrets. SRM explains to clients that ransomware is an organized criminal enterprise, and the most established groups have brands to uphold. Believe it or not, these criminal groups are rated on their reliability, whether they actually delete stolen data or provide decryption keys after a payment. SRM offers clients a rundown of who's who, their negotiating patterns, and who actually honors a deal. This intelligence isn't just a vague reputation. These firms are doing deep analysis. Just like a financial firm would analyze a company, they track if a gang follows through on its promises, how aggressive its negotiation style is, and the technical sophistication of its tools. For example, a major group like ALPHV, also known as Black Cat, is known for running a highly professional ransomware as a service operation, which makes their attacks incredibly widespread and dangerous. This knowledge allows a victim to know exactly who they're dealing with. This is where the situation takes a more complex turn. When it comes to state-linked threat actors, the firm's director calls it a game of whack-a-mole. As soon as a group appears on a sanctions list, it tends to disband and reform in a new guise. It's a constant game of cat and mouse. For example, a ransomware group known as Royal will get a lot of heat from law enforcement and be placed on sanctions lists, making it illegal for companies to pay them, so they vanish. A few weeks later, a new group called Black Suit appears using nearly identical malicious code. It's the same criminals, just with a new name, operating a new criminal franchise to evade the authorities. That's the whack-a-mole game. While the final decision to pay always rests with the victim, SRM's role is to challenge that impulse and offer a strategic template based on crisis experience. In the hidden world of cyber extortion, their work shows that sometimes the strongest move is to refuse to play the criminal's game at all. Speaking of companies facing high-stakes decisions with massive financial consequences, our final story turns to one of the world's biggest brands. The Walt Disney Company, the brand synonymous with childhood magic, is paying $10 million to settle claims it violated children's privacy laws. The US government alleges that Disney failed to properly label some of its YouTube videos as made for children. That simple failure has a massive consequence. It allowed for targeted advertising and the collection of kids' personal data without parental consent, a direct violation of federal law. The financial incentive here is huge. You see, when a video is labeled made for kids, YouTube is legally required to turn off personalized ads. That causes the ad revenue for that video to plummet. We're talking a potential drop from several dollars per 1,000 views down to as little as 25 or 35 cents. So, by failing to check that box, a creator could potentially make 10 times the revenue or more. The $10 million fine, while it sounds like a lot, raises a serious question. For a company the size of Disney, is that a real punishment or just the cost of doing business? This wasn't a small oversight. The Department of Justice complaint notes that since 2020, Disney has uploaded videos to more than 1,250 YouTube channels. And here's where it gets interesting. You might be asking, why is a company with a massive streaming platform like Disney Plus even bothering with YouTube? The reality is, YouTube is a colossal marketing engine. Disney uses it to reach a wider audience, collaborating with huge kid influencers to promote toys and movies. One collaboration to promote an Iron Man toy got 36 million views. So there's this constant tension between using YouTube for marketing and the regulatory risks that come with it. This case is a perfect example of that risk coming home to roost. What really brought this to a head, though, is a detail from the legal filing. Regulators claimed Disney was aware of these failures as early as June 2020. At that time, YouTube allegedly had to inform Disney that it had stepped in and changed the labels on more than 300 of its videos, including content from massive hits like Frozen, Toy Story, and The Incredibles. So how did YouTube know to step in? Well, platforms like YouTube don't just rely on creators, to be honest. They use powerful machine learning systems that analyze videos for signals that they're made for kids. The algorithm looks for things like animated characters, the presence of child actors, or themes that appeal to children. It's an automated cop on the beat, and in this case, it seems that cop caught what Disney allegedly missed. The core of the issue is that this alleged misclassification wasn't just a technicality. The law at the center of all this is the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA. It creates a strict wall around the data of any child under 13. It says you cannot collect their personal information, which includes things like their device ID, their viewing habits, their location, without getting verifiable consent from a parent. By not labeling these videos correctly, the government alleges Disney essentially left the gate open for data trackers to walk right in and start collecting information on children, which is a huge no-no. As part of the settlement, Disney will now implement a program to ensure future compliance with the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. Government lawyers allege that Disney's misclassification directly resulted in YouTube placing targeted advertisements on child-directed videos on Disney's behalf.
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.